Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Christopher Dell'Olio, CEO of WebJoint, a leading technology company that provides innovative software solutions to businesses in the retail delivery and logistics industry, including the cannabis industry as well. Christopher, so excited to chat with you today. And like I mentioned before the show, always excited to chat with individuals who are working with a newer or more innovative space, who are on the cutting edge of just a lot of decisions that are being made, a lot of regulations and compliance. It's always interesting to see how you navigate those environments. And before we get into WebJoint and what you're working on, what were you doing before you started the company?
Before I started the company, I was pretty much just doing web design and development. I was working with actually a record label, independent blues record label at the time, just handling a bunch of their websites. And even prior to that, I was making music and whatnot as well. So I've kind of dabbled in both. But I've always had ideas as a kid, and I had to learn how to make software. So that turned into a natural thing. So that's what I was doing before I started with.
I love it. And what was the inspiration behind the company? What were you seeing in the market that got you excited about jumping in and really offering solutions? And for those who don't know, the audience, I feel like not only the cannabis industry is so, I guess, not new, but essentially it's new in the sense of adapting with new technology. What inspired you to get involved and start working?
Yeah, so I was working with a dispensary way back in the day before it legalized in California that needed software solutions to manage their business. So they just were asking for certain things built into their website that they never had before because everybody was doing things by pen and paper. So from that point, I just looked into the industry a little bit more and seen that everybody was doing things with pen and paper. None of them had professional emails. They were all like Gmail or Yahoo emails, things of that nature. So they were operating prehistorically because nobody wanted to put their information on the cloud just yet, especially because it was still illegal. So seeing the opportunity at that point to build software for the industry.
Yeah. And when did the shift happen? When were people a little bit more, I guess, open or when was the accessibility to start adding these more formal technologies into their businesses?
Well, I mean, we started doing it right away, but as it started to mature, I would say, and we actually legalized cannabis in California in 2018. That's when there was actual infrastructure for software, and it was absolutely necessary for everybody to use it. Because now there's track and trace platforms in the state where they track everything from the point where the seed's put into the ground all the way to the point where it's harvested, packaged, distributed, sent to the testing facility, back to distribution into retail or whatever the case may be. So there needs to be software that these license holders use that communicates with the state platform as well. So now we're at a point where everybody operating in legal cannabis has to use software to run the business.
Wow. And what are the different degrees to which you have to, you mentioned you have to plug into different state databases and things along that nature. What's the degree to which the sophistication of technology and has led to, are they, and what's allowing the tracking process? I'm curious to see how the whole process works from start to finish.
I mean, we don't really dabble with cultivation or anything, but essentially they have RFID tag. It's each plant. A cultivator is essentially getting tags from the state platform that they're putting on each plant. So that tag is in the system. So when you package everything up, it has a package ID, a barcode, which pretty much says this packaged product is from these batch of plants, and they know they were harvested, so on and so forth. To the testing facility, they get either approved or they pass all the tests, and then it gives them like the THC percentages, so on and so forth. And then along the entire way, as they're making deliveries, at the end of the day, when a retailer gets a package of inventory, it has a package ID that relates to the distribution tag, which relates to the tag all the way to the tags on the plants in cultivation. So.
Yeah, is that because the regulation is becoming more, I guess, or it's not just sophisticated, but you have required to kind of track the plant from start to finish. Is it a regulation thing or is it for the consumer?
Yeah, it's a regulation thing. They essentially want to be able to, hey, if somebody eats this edible and died, right? Even though it's like we know can't. What they're pretty much trying to say is, hey, this is a drug, so somebody eats and something happens to this person, we could track it back to the exact batch of plants that it came from and who grew that, that product and who tested it and everything. So Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what solutions are being built? Are you kind of using a few different solutions? Are you building out your own? And what was the incumbent before? Was it just a bunch of white label products that you would kind of patchwork together to create like a sophisticated system?
I mean, so right now the softwares are essentially built for the state. So you could think of those traceability systems that I just described.
Yeah.
That is the state software. So the state picks one system that everybody is going to essentially have to integrate with. So we integrate with that software, with that traceability platform. And for us, it's easy because it's just retail. So every time a transaction happens, we tell the state, hey, this consumer bought this edible, which has this, came from this package ID. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that they can track, oh, this consumer bought this edible that came all the way back, from these,
Yeah.
from this distributor to this cultivator, so on and so forth. But, everybody kind of makes software in the industry for whatever it is that they focus on. We have some cultivation software companies, some that focus on distribution, some that focus on retail. We focus solely on retail delivery. So we don't make software for dispensaries or brick and mortar stores. We make software solely for the delivery operations. And we're
Yeah.
also doing it in other industries now, because the most interesting thing is we have what's called ice cream truck model or delivery. To actually get a delivery of cannabis products, it's our quickest delivery is 1 minute 45 seconds. Our average delivery time is 24 minutes. And some of our top deliveries to deliver products with an average of like 12, 13 minutes. So from placing an order, you get a text message saying your driver's 40 minutes away. It's really a game-changing experience. And, being able to allow other companies outside of cannabis to adopt this model, because it started in cannabis, but there's a lot of other high volume in demand products that could be, whether they're snacks, drinks, COVID tests, things of that nature that need to be high in demand and delivered
Yeah.
really cheap game for delivery and logistics in all industries moving forward. So
Yeah. What's the relationship, or how do you build a relationship with the partners that essentially are trying to connect to the consumers? And how is that whole onboarding process? Obviously, the technology sounds like great in a perfect world, but it's hard to have your customers or your clients implement technology. What is that process like? And what advice would you give to other founders who are looking to help other partners implement their technology, but also utilize it to its fullest potential?
I mean, are we talking just delivery businesses in general?
Well, in terms of WebJoint and what your service is doing, that partner to partner relationship, so you can actually fulfill the service. How do you develop those, and what are some pieces of advice that you'd give another founder?
As far as like onboarding a customer and like the getting
Yeah,
them,
yeah, it's good.
I
Yeah,
mean, starting with the sales process, obviously making sure that your sales is your pipeline is structured so that, you are bringing in the leads, and we do what's called a discovery call. We do a 5 minute discovery
sure.
call before even doing a demo, because we want to know where you are, what state that you're in. If you're in New York compared to California, the regulations are different, or like,
Yeah.
so we want to know what we're working with before we get on a demo. So it's being
Mhm.
able to funnel those into a qualification call and then be able to understand what the demo is going to entail. And as far as onboarding, once the sell is made, it's always important to make sure that you have just good SOPs in place to make sure that you're knocking everything out as far as training,
Mhm.
making sure that they're scheduled, that they're having everybody involved in the training, all the drivers, the managers, so on and so forth. With it being software that runs the entire business, it typically starts top down, where we train everybody that is going to be training their employees, and sometimes even full on webinars with their entire staff of members, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that they're utilizing that to the best of their ability, but also helping with that ice cream truck model delivery as well. We put a lot of resource guides and things like that together to help educate people on how to successfully implement ice cream truck model delivery, because it's definitely like a new topic, you know what I mean? Because you're going from storing all your inventory at one warehouse to having inventory at your warehouse. Or if you're like grocery store retail, it could be like you have all of your inventory at your retail store, right? But then you could also, while your drivers are out there delivering the groceries, which might be scheduled, like people might have scheduled it the night before, right? But you could have additional inventory in that car. So now you could put drinks and snacks, and just like how when you're in the checkout line at a grocery store, you can order like a soda, you can get like, oh, let me get this Snickers bar off the shelf here. You could have additional items in that vehicle and then send the customer a text message notification, hey, your order's on the way. By the way, we have these products that you can add to your order, or you could even
Yeah.
upsell upon it. You know what I mean? So it gives you the ability to do more. Plus, you can get your groceries delivered with scheduled delivery, or you can get drinks and snacks and all these quick, fast items. Just look at our express menu and see everything that you can get within. You know what I mean? So now it gives you the ability as a delivery company or retail company to even expand your delivery zones. Because if you could put inventory in a vehicle in 100 vehicles and send them out in a bunch of different directions, now you go from having this one store in this one part of the city to you have your store in the city and then you have 100 rolling stores that are just out and about. You know what I mean? That could deliver products within minutes. So helping small businesses understand that model and implement it is another thing that we feel is important, because that's really the cream of the crop for us.
Yeah, yeah. How much time do you spend just investigating regulations in different states and everything else in the business? And how quickly do these regulations change?
Yeah, I mean, we stay on top of everything. I also spend a lot of time going to these markets even before they're legal, and making good connections with people that are on the floor there. You know what I mean? Because it's like when I was in LA, it's one thing I'm going to the city hall meetings in LA and understanding what's happening as it's happening, and also meeting the people that are there. But sometimes I have the opportunity to go do that in New York. I've been going to New York and New Jersey for a while now, and I have a lot of actually doing a webinar for those that are in the process of applying for licenses in New Jersey. We're doing that on the 22nd, and we actually have Weston McWhite, who is the diversity and inclusion for the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and he's the one that's really overseeing, put together a lot of these policies and getting people up and operating in New Jersey. So just having those connections through people that I've met over the last few years, they're the ones that call them, or they call me saying, "Hey, I just got off the phone with so-and-so and they talked to governor this and that." It's just politics and just being able to stay in the loop there for sure. And you just need to have a good group of people around you that bring that information to the forefront. So
it's crazy to think about how not only the mentality, but also the opportunity has shifted with states legalizing it periodically. At one point, it was a bulk of states, and then now it seems like regulations are becoming more and more open. Has the mentality changed when you're in those conversations around cannabis and the opportunity that's around it, and not only monetarily, but the access to it? What's changed the mentality in the last few years?
The mentality of consumers or those interested in the business of?
Both, I guess. Yeah.
As far as consumers, I mean, I feel like that is still, it's definitely a lot more people are okay with it. I mean, I've had family members that before, even most recently, that'll still contact me, and maybe they haven't bought weed since high school, and now they're asking. It's been legal for years, right? So they're asking me, "Hey, how does this work?" This, that, and the other. So I think there's still a lot of education that needs to happen for the consumer's perspective, and I feel like it's definitely bringing it to professional light, having software technology where you could deliver the products like with lightning speed, quicker than DoorDash. Like when you could provide that professional experience, it's going to help a lot of those that looked at it like, oh, this illegal industry for a long time, more comfortable with it. So I think everybody playing their part with what we're doing on the software side is one thing, right? But then you have those that build hardware or create different types of consumption methods or delivery methods. Like, I've seen there's events that they have where they display new products, and just you can get edibles, you can get vape carts, you can get flour, obviously pre-rolls, but now they even have like inhalers and brownie mix, and like they're getting a bunch of different types of products. And I think that's the interesting thing, is that it's a commodity, right? And there's always going to be new brands and types of products that are created. And as far as like the business side of it, I think that from the outside looking in, new markets are definitely exciting for a lot of people, especially that live in those areas. But like in California, there's a lot of problems in the industry right now. Like there's a lot of people not paying their bills because taxes are so high, right? So there's a lot of people that are going out of business. There's a lot of people that are getting acquired. And so it's a change in the market because it's a little more matured. But at the same time, you have new markets like New Jersey, where everybody's in the application process. Everyone's excited. Everyone's starting the business. You know what I mean? There's really no recreational dispensaries that are up and running yet. So it's like, it's a new exciting thing. So it depends on the market that you're in. And I think everybody's kind of just waiting for federal legalization to finally happen, because obviously interstate commerce is going to be one of the biggest things that solve a lot of problems as well. The price of cannabis in in Oregon is different than what it is in California compared to
Right.
what it is in New York because of how hard it is to get access to product. Or in Oregon, there was a situation where they had so many cultivators growing so much weed, but there are only so many people in the entire state of Oregon. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And because they
Yeah.
can't sell their product outside the state, the price of cannabis just
Plummets. Yeah.
dips like crazy. So there's a lot of issues that are yet to be solved, which there's a lot of opportunity, but I think a lot of people from the outside looking in see cannabis as this like fully grow. There's a lot of money to be made, and there is, but you need to be dedicated. It takes time. You're going to go through a lot of hurdles, and things take a lot of time, especially with regulation. Like a state will legalize it and will vote for it, but then it still takes a year, 2, 3 years to sometimes to get up and operational dispensaries up and going. So things definitely take time.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to think about, and you mentioned it a second ago. Smaller companies either going out of business or going through acquisitions. Are we going to be in a place where there's going to be a few kind of multinational cannabis companies that run mainly the forefront of the majority of the delivery services and the consumer services that we'll see? Is that kind of where we're leaning because of the increase in taxes and the, like you said, the hurdles that are just difficult if you're not dedicated or you don't have things at scale?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some stuff going on in the background where they're structuring it to make it hard for the mom and pops to survive and let the
Yeah.
industry mature while hurting the people that are building it, so that the big guys can
Yeah.
just come in and everything up. So I definitely see that, but at the same time, I feel like there's the whole disconnect between culture and corporate. And if you don't have the culture that cannabis has created, like at the end of the day, like I remember going to Oregon when they first had legalized, and yeah, whoever created this very nice dispensary was probably very educated and was an entrepreneur with a lot of experience. So there's a lot of people that started coming in as like they were managing retail at Best Buy and Walmarts and Targets, and they're saying they're coming in that they're going to just absolutely crush it. But what they forgot is to get the growers that have been cultivating the cannabis for the last 20
Yeah.
years, they could grow it themselves. I mean, so
Yeah.
you have to keep the culture of cannabis, the growers that have been growing the product growing the plant for longer than I've been alive. You know what I mean? So
Right.
being able to make sure that that culture is still there is going to be necessary because consumers know. And even if you're a new consumer, you're going to soon enough know that, what is good product to bad product and so on and so forth. That's
Yeah.
eventually going to figure itself out. So I think that there's also looking at it like, yeah, you have 7-Elevens, right? Which is, you could look at the big conglomerate of convenience stores, but
Right.
then you still have the convenience stores and the liquor stores that are owned by independent business owners at the same time. So I think that there's going to be a lot of that. And where I see cannabis delivery, what's interesting about it is there's really not any other part types of businesses in retail that have their own fleets of drivers. Typically, everyone goes the DoorDash or Uber Eats route, but you can't do that in cannabis. For one, all of your drivers have to be licensed with the license holder. And if you think about it, the only other retail type of businesses that have their own fleets of drivers are pizza deliveries, Domino's,
Yeah.
Pizza Hut, and pizza
Yeah.
shops. So it's creating a new fleet of drivers. And what we're trying to do is, by offering our software and giving it to individual operators, we can then utilize them as a delivery fleet. So I can give you Julian's cannabisdelivery.com. It's cannabis delivery ABC, could be whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
So the delivery address, if they're in San Francisco, it'll pull inventory from one of the drivers that are in San Francisco. If it's Los Angeles, it'll pull inventory from Los Angeles. And you don't own a license, you don't have the product, you're not hiring the drivers, but you can actually have your own white label delivery service. And it's wide, but you're using independent operators. So we're going to be able to find a way to use independent delivery services to do delivery on a large scale by sending orders to all of them individually. So that's something that we're already doing in cannabis, and we want to do in other industries as well.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the traction. How many companies are using your service? What's exciting about the recent years, the level of growth? But what are you particularly excited about this year and where you're headed?
Yeah, so we have roughly 1/3 of the operating delivery market in California, and we're definitely expanding to a lot of other states right now, New Mexico, has definitely been hot for us. New York, New Jersey, and anywhere that's really focusing on cannabis delivery. There's also a lot of cannabis markets where cannabis delivery really isn't prominent, nor do they have like regulations in place that really support it. So
Yeah.
that's really where we're focused. And other than that, we're working with some clients that are in just other types of service businesses, other types of retail delivery and things like that are outside of cannabis.
Yeah. I don't know. Just for pure speculation purposes, I don't know if you know the answer, but when do you think it's going to be federally accepted as a, I guess, federally legalized industry?
I don't know. That's tough to say. And I think it's still 10, 15 years out, to be completely
Wow,
honest.
really?
And even if it was federally legal, you have to think of how long it's going to take to implement and actually see things go into effect that actually
Yeah.
affect the industry past that. And I still think that even if federal legalization happens, states are still going to have their own say so on being able to tighten up on certain things and have their own control in certain scenarios. But I think it opens up the door for what I was mentioning, like cross state commerce. You can go to the bar down the street. You're in Los Angeles, and you can have a beer brewed in Boston. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you can't
Right.
do that in cannabis currently. Like if you want California weed, you need to go to California. Obviously, there's people
Yeah.
doing it illegally, saying that they're not exporting,
Sure.
and there's still a huge gray market because of the fact that taxes are so high and the demand
Yeah.
for cheap product is there. So that's definitely what I think federal legalization is going to solve, is like cross state commerce. But yeah, as far as how long that's going to take, I mean, I feel like obviously there's going to need to be a huge conglomerate that has a lot of control in the industry. Obviously,
Sure.
that's what they're waiting for, and they're going to lobby and do what they need to do to
Yeah.
keep it arm's length until then. So
Yeah, yeah, the typical function, right? Have enough money and resources to lobby, and then essentially, and then get access to policies kind of in favor to you, which is it's just
yeah,
interesting because it does open up the doors, but there's a lot of malfeasance that happens in that. But in particular, in your founder experience, what's been the most challenging part about your job?
the most challenging part about my job, is it's always a constant battle. Like the thing with me is like more growth, more problems, more money, more problems.
Sure.
Whether it's raising money, whether it's always something. But I would say just sticking around the fight, because especially in cannabis, you never know what was going to happen. Like I started in the industry before it was legal. We grew up to
Yeah.
200 clients, and then things went legal, and none of those clients were licensed. So
Yeah.
we had a bunch of clients. I think out of those entire 200, there was only a very select few that got their actual license when it was all said and done. And we
Wow.
essentially, luckily, we had funding at the time, but we had to rebuild our client base. So there's things that you don't know that's going to happen, and the universe is always going to test you before it gives you what you want. So you just have to stay
Yeah.
true to what you believe in. So I think that's the biggest thing there is if you know what you want and you're working for it, like it's like the law of gravity. It's like what goes up must come down. Like you're going to
Right.
get what you're working for. You're going to be tested by the universe. You're either going to conform and you're going to say, oh, maybe I can't do this, or you're going to pull back and,
Yeah.
and do things that are going to put you in a position that's going to slow you down. So I think it's just being able to have the guts to go through it and be ready for what's to come. So that's the most challenging thing. And it's an everyday thing, regardless of what level you're on, it's just the same thing, just a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for WebJoint?
I mean, ultimately, I want to be one of the biggest companies that changes everything in delivery and logistics, long term, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon level. But I like to take the growth and my vision at least a year or two at a time, especially working in the industries that we're working in and being able to execute on the short-term goals, knowing what we ultimately want. You know what I mean? So I mean,
Yeah.
as the large short-term goals are identifying ways for other businesses outside of cannabis to implement ice cream truck model. Because when I'm looking at consumers leaving reviews on my clients' Google pages, say, I got this delivery in 3 minutes, or you can get a delivery faster than you can get a pizza in this town. And I'm understanding that it's their first time in their life getting a delivery that fast.
Yeah.
So, and we're the only software that allows the geofencing and the storing inventory in the vehicles, and how the online ordering will find inventory from the closest vehicle. We're the only ones that can do that, right? So how do we get the rest of the world to deliver products this way and be able to give everybody that experience of having a delivery from order place to at your door within minutes.
Yeah, yeah. I always like to ask this question to founders who are just building and going through the building process. Where do you find the talent necessary? I feel like for a lot of companies, they think about, and the most important thing is building a team around you to be hyper successful, especially during the early days. And as you're building and growing, those people around you are that much more imperative to your long-term success. Where do you go to find talented people, especially in an industry that is it's not new, but it's less, I guess, formalized than say a typical SaaS model company when with the industry that you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, now that the industry's it's been around for a while. There's people that have worked at other software companies that have contacted us, and people that I've known that have done well at other companies that are looking for new positions. So that's obviously an obvious. But my team currently with me now has been with me for quite some time, and we found the perfect recipe to keep the team small but also execute, especially when we're building innovative delivery technology. We're able to move a lot quicker and make decisions on the fly, and we keep our engineering team is actually the biggest part of our team because we're focused on the product. So, and with that being said, it's I was lucky enough to have actually the two guys that are with me that have been with me the longest weren't in cannabis originally, but they fell in love with the industry. Now they know it like the back of their hand. And I think being in cannabis and starting in cannabis helped us understand that nobody is innovated for delivery in other industries because everyone that came into the cannabis industry came in to innovate because it was brand new. So you got software companies from all over trying to build cannabis technology. The only thing is this style of delivery was literally taught to us by cannabis. That's why we call it ice cream truck model. Because the only thing you can relate it to is the ice cream truck. Like there's literally just, it's rolling around with inventory you can buy right out of that car. So there's nothing else out there. Like ice cream trucks are dead and gone now. You know what I mean? And even when they were, we didn't have technology to like ping your phone saying, hey, there's an ice cream truck down the street and show you everything that's in the car. Like just imagine if that was a thing, right? So we have the technology to allow anybody to do it. So even if somebody wanted to do a small little retail delivery in their city and deliver products within a couple of minutes, we have the software that would allow them to do it that would otherwise cost them millions of dollars to build.
Yeah. And you mentioned the recipe. What is that? Any components to that recipe you could share for other founders out there?
I mean, it's just making sure that your team knows that they're not just an employee, but they are part of your founding team. I mean, they own part of it. They feel like it's a family and they want to see this thing to the end. So at the end of the end, I somehow just was blessed with finding guys that wanted to just continue to get better at what they did, whether it's taking courses or my product manager right now, he started as just handling basic customer service for us. He didn't really know anything about code or project management, but then he started to learn. He's like, I want to learn how to code. I want to be able to get more involved with the product team. And over the course of a few years, like he's our lead product manager now. So it's finding people like that that are dedicated to the craft. And especially with B2B software and building enterprise solutions that we are now, like, our average ticket is our software starts at $1,047 a month if you get the entire suite. So it's not like we're selling to any Joe Schmo or any random like business. So we just let them sign up. Like it's a very intricate process. And with that being said, we're able to keep the sales team a little bit smaller because we're targeting B2B businesses that are very niche that need delivery technology with that ice cream truck model, so on and so forth. It's very, very targeted. And we're able to keep our expenses low while providing something of so much value that we're able to execute on it quick. So that's the recipe that we put together there.
I love that. Is there what's the one thing that you're good at now as a founder that you weren't good at previously or early on?
I would say just having the ability to lead and understand and step out of my way of doing everything. Because when you first start as a founder, you're literally doing everything. You're doing the marketing, you're doing the sales. Yeah. And I think first when you bring other people in, it's obviously you need to train and so on and so forth, but then not getting caught up in micromanaging. More so me as the CEO, just being able to lead the vision and understand if I have a vision and I want to do something and go in a new market or industry, this, that, and the other, or we need to adjust our pricing. then I'm not just going in and doing it myself, but I'm going in knowing that I could trust my team to say, hey, this is what we want to do, and they're going to bring it to fruition. So I can say, hey, I want to raise money, and we did a crowdfunding round, and I can come to my team saying, hey, this is what I think that we should do. We need to do a crowdfunding round where here's my vision of how we could do marketing here, there, and the other. And then my team's like, all right, cool. They get all the pieces and they put it together, and that's the ultimate way to get it done. So I think a lot of founders need to, especially when they're starting to grow, is understand that the only way that your team's going to be able to do what you need them to do and do it well is if you trust them to do it. Because if you're micromanaging, then you're just doing the job alongside them or not letting identify a way to lead the role. You know what I mean? So that's what I give there.
Whether it was early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most?
Yeah, books, Think and Grow Rich, for sure, was definitely a good one. And for me and my ADHD, it's hard for me to sit down and read a whole book sometimes. So I'm very definitely, as far as people go, I mean, Elon Musk, hands down, has always been, it's just inspirational to see how he leads himself and also just keeps that child in him, that energy, you know what I mean? And not being so serious. It's like one thing that I always try to do, like I'm wearing a bucket hat right now, you know what I mean? Like if I walk out looking all suit and tie, and at the end of the day, business is people, and I want to know who you are as a person, not who you are as, I'm going to be this and wear this, and I'm going to talk with this voice to get you to act a certain way so that I can get a deal done. You know what I mean? So to cut all that bullshit out from the start, because I feel like it's the best way to weed out the people that you don't want to work with. And at the end of the day, that's ultimately the people that you want to work with. You want to know that they're real people, and that you could have a real conversation with them and not have to play this game of let me change who I am every second of the day. So I definitely support you on for that, because I feel like he just keeps it real. So
yeah, I love that. Is there anything I know we're coming to the end of the episode, and I always give my guests a chance to give us your plugs, your LinkedIn, your websites, and everything like that. Where can we find you? Where can we be a fan of not only the technology, but you as a founder? Let the audience know where we can get involved and support.
Yeah, well, obviously you can always check us out and see what we're doing at webjoint.com. Our Instagram is webjoint.ceo. And we're also on Twitter, all that good stuff. Simple, easy to find us. Just type in WebJoint, and it's super easy to get in touch.
Cool. Christopher, it was so exciting not only listening to the founder journey and how you not only been involved with the industry, but are able to kind of see a lens through the enabling of the technology, through these delivery services, and also the foresight into what the industry is going to look like, not only in the next couple of years, but in the future, and we'll see what the regulations kind of hold there. But I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I appreciate your insight and being on the show. So thank you again.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it as well. Let me know. I'm looking forward to being able to put this online and out to all my followers as well. So I appreciate what you're doing.